Hello and welcome back to Heart to Heart Parenting. This is video number 4 and we're talking about what's at stake. So what's the big deal? What if you don't connect with your child's heart? You just kind of wing it and go with the flow, do what feels right. You know, what do you really have to lose, right? Well, as we said in the last video, I believe the heart is everything because the Bible says the issues of life flow out of our heart. And so if we have a healthy heart, we'll have a healthy life. But if we have an unhealthy heart, we'll have an unhealthy life. We talked about boundaries too. So there's a lot of things that are at stake, but I want to talk about 4 specific things. First and foremost, your child's self-worth. A child's self-worth is formed by how the people around him respond to him, respond to his emotions, his thoughts and ideas, his opinions, and those are all things that come out of our heart. And so if your child is sharing his heart and he's being responded to in a healthy way, it'll help develop a healthy self-image. He'll see that he has value, that his thoughts and ideas and feelings are all important and have value. And so a child's self-worth is at stake. You know, that's kind of my story. In fact, it's everything to me because I grew up, you know, doing very well in school and in music, and I just didn't receive the approval and affirmation that, you know, we all crave and desire from our parents. We want to know that they think well of us, right? And on top of it, you know, there was very little emotional connection in my family. You know, it was a very superficial environment. There was no affection. I never saw my parents, you know, hug or, God forbid, kiss, or, you know, I never even heard anyone say, I love you to me or anyone else my whole childhood. One time when I was very upset, my mom came up to my room and said, you know, we love you. And so I grew up in a very emotionally void environment. You know, I even say it was a loveless environment. I know my parents loved me, but there was no expression of affection or love. And so, in fact, my father even, I remember once I was very upset and I started to cry and he looked me in the face. He said, don't cry. So, you know, emotion was not really allowed in our family. We were, you know, raised in the typical fear and trembling of the 1960s, 50s and 60s, I guess. And, you know, so that was very damaging to me. And so that's, my self-worth was very low. I had very little confidence. And, you know, it really was a very faulty foundation for a healthy life. The second thing that's at stake for your child is all his future relationships, because psychologists tell us that the state of the relationship you have with your child will determine every future relationship in his life. So he will base his future relationships on the one he had with you. So if your child has a healthy relationship with his parents, he'll have healthy relationships going forward. I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, you learn what you live, and children learn by the experiences they have in their childhood. So if they have a healthy relational experience with you and they're learning how to relate in a healthy way, that's going to carry over into every relationship in their life, including the relationship they have with their future spouse and with God. So we know that children view God primarily through how they view their earthly father. So it's important that fathers incorporate these skills into learning to have this emotional connection with their child, because so many of us have grown up without that. I'm not the only one. It's pretty common. And we have a hard time seeing God as a loving father because we didn't have that loving father conveyed to us by our earthly father. So all of his future relationships are at stake, your child's. And the third thing that's at stake is something that psychologists are now calling EQ, which stands for your emotional quotient or your emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence has to do with how that you manage your own emotions. And of course, that's exactly what we're learning in this course, is how to teach our children to, you know, express their emotions in a healthy way, and how to work through their own emotions and manage their own emotions, which is huge. You know, the other thing EQ talks about or refers to is your ability to manage your own emotions, but also your sensitivity to the needs and emotions of other people. So you can see how that's a huge relational skill. EQ also talks about the effectiveness of our relational skills in like a marriage relationship, but also they've found that EQ is a huge factor. They call it the new success gene, although it's not a gene. It's a learned skill because they're finding that one of the things that successful leaders have in common is a high EQ, or emotional intelligence. And so you're helping your child to become a better leader, to be able to interact with other people in all sorts of environments, whether it's work, family, friendship, social. So he'll have a much more solid foundation and better leadership skills. And then the fourth, and I think most important thing that is at stake if we don't help our children develop healthy hearts is their God-given destiny. Every one of us was put on earth to fulfill a purpose, including your child. And God puts our destiny in our heart. He gives us desires, interests, abilities, and giftings that are encoded in our heart. And it's your job as a parent to find out what those are and draw them out. So if his heart is shut down, if he's shut off, if he's closed off from you, you're not going to be able to help identify those things that are clues to his kingdom destiny and help him develop those and discover and fulfill his kingdom destiny. So there's a lot at stake. And and I'm driven in all of these courses because I want to equip you to raise world changers. And the way we're going to change the world is by each of us fulfilling our kingdom destiny. So that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next video where we're going to dive right into the meat of the course and learn about this 3-step process of how to connect with your child's heart. I'll see you there.